What if the most powerful force in the cosmos was buried inside you, deliberately silenced, systematically erased from every sacred text you were allowed to read? What if your very soul carries the memory of a divine betrayal, a cosmic fall that split reality itself, fragmenting the feminine principle that once held all creation in perfect balance? You've been taught that salvation comes from outside, from a distant father god, from priests, from rituals, from dying and hoping something better waits beyond. But what if that teaching was the trap? What if the light they promise at the end of the tunnel is the same light that's kept you cycling through lifetimes of forgetting, each incarnation stripping away more of who you truly are? Tonight, we're going deeper than doctrine. We're excavating something the powers that control this reality never wanted you to find: Sophia's hidden message. Not the sanitized version whispered in esoteric circles, not the watered-down goddess worship of New Age bookstores. The real transmission, the one that threatens every hierarchy, every system of control, every false cosmic order that feeds on your divine amnesia. Because Sophia didn't just fall, she left breadcrumbs, encrypted instructions written into the fabric of your consciousness, waiting for this exact moment when you'd be ready to remember. And when you do, everything changes. The prison becomes visible. The jailers lose their masks, and you become dangerous to the architecture of illusion itself. Are you ready to remember what they made you forget? Let me take you back to December 1945, Upper Egypt, a place called Nag Hammadi, where the desert keeps secrets better than any vault. A farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Saman was digging for fertilizer near a boulder when his blade struck something hollow. Inside a sealed jar, he found 13 leather-bound codices, ancient manuscripts that had been buried for over 1,600 years. He almost burned them for kindling. Instead, he'd just unearthed the most dangerous library in human history. These weren't the scriptures you learned in Sunday school. These were Gnostic Gospels, texts deemed so heretical, so threatening to institutional power, that early church authorities ordered them destroyed. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, the Apocryphon of John, the Sophia of Jesus Christ. Documents that told a completely different story about the origins of reality, the nature of the divine, and your place in a cosmic drama, far stranger than any official religion dared admit. At the heart of these hidden teachings was a narrative that shook the foundations of everything, the story of Sophia, whose name means wisdom. Not wisdom as intellectual knowledge, but as the living, breathing, creative force of the divine feminine, the aspect of the ultimate God, the true source beyond all sources, that births universes through thought alone. The Gnostics taught that in the beginning there was the pleroma, the fullness, an infinite realm of pure light and consciousness where divine beings called eons existed in perfect harmony. Sophia was among the highest of these eons, radiant and powerful, embodying the creative principle itself. But in her passion to create, to know, to express the infinite potential within her, Sophia did something unprecedented. She attempted to emanate, to create without her divine consort, without the balancing masculine principle, and from that solitary act of creation came something unintended, something that should never have been: the demiurge. Not the loving creator of mainstream theology, but a flawed, ignorant entity who looked at his own existence and declared, "I am God and there is no other." The Gnostic texts name him Yaldabaoth, sometimes called Saklas the Fool. Born from Sophia's miscalculation, this being had power but no wisdom, authority but no understanding, and in his ignorance he created the material universe. This reality you're experiencing right now, as a prison designed to trap divine sparks of consciousness in cycles of incarnation, suffering, and forgetfulness. Sophia, realizing what she'd done, tried to correct it. She couldn't destroy her creation, but she could do something else. She could hide pieces of herself, fragments of divine gnosis, of true knowing, inside the very beings the demiurge would create. Inside humanity, inside you. This is why every authentic spiritual tradition speaks of an inner light, a divine spark, something immortal trapped in mortal flesh. The Hindus call it Atman. The Christians whisper about the kingdom of God within. But the Gnostics were explicit: you are not merely human. You are a fragment of Sophia herself, wearing amnesia like chains, wandering through a false creation, mistaking the warden for God. And the demiurge. He doesn't rule alone. Now we need to talk about the machinery of forgetting, the architecture of the trap, because understanding the prison is the first step toward recognizing the bars you've been conditioned not to see. The Gnostic texts speak of the archons, rulers or authorities, entities that serve the demiurge as enforcers of this false reality. They're described as beings without true creative power, parasitic in nature, who feed on the emotional energy of incarnated souls. Fear, despair, anger, lust. These dense, heavy emotions are their sustenance, and they become masters at cultivating them. But how? How does a cosmic control system maintain its grip on billions of souls across thousands of lifetimes? Through distraction, through division, through carefully crafted belief systems that keep you looking everywhere except within. Every war fought over whose God is real. Every doctrine that teaches you're born sinful, broken, needing external salvation. Every spiritual teaching that promises enlightenment in the next life if you just obey in this one. Every time you were told that questioning authority, earthly or divine, was the gravest sin. Do you see the pattern? They need you disempowered. They need you believing you're small, insignificant, dependent. Because a soul that remembers its divine origin is a soul they can't control. Consider the reincarnation trap, spoken of not just in Gnostic texts, but echoed in Tibetan Buddhist teachings about the bardo, in ancient Egyptian funerary rites, in Cathar beliefs about the cycle of return. You die. Your consciousness, untethered from flesh, moves through what many describe as a tunnel of light. Beings of light appear, perhaps religious figures you believed in, perhaps deceased loved ones. They're warm, welcome. They tell you it's time to go back, to learn more lessons, to balance your karma, to complete your soul's journey. And you believe them because you've forgotten who you are, because the amnesia kicked in the moment you incarnated last time, and it'll kick in again, because the archons have had millennia to perfect the art of appearing as angels. What if karma isn't a universal law, but a program? A control mechanism that keeps you convinced you deserve your suffering, that you need to keep coming back to work it off. What if the life review they show you is selectively edited, designed to generate guilt, to make you volunteer for another round in the prison? The Gnostic texts are clear. The rulers of this realm want you back. They've created systems, religious, social, even supposedly spiritual, that condition you to accept return as inevitable, even desirable. But here's what they don't tell you. What Sophia embedded in your consciousness as a failsafe. You have a choice. You've always had a choice. But first, you need to remember what choice even means when you've been conditioned since birth. To follow, to obey, to trust external authority over inner knowing. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you felt the spark of something greater inside you, only to have it crushed by fear? How many times have you sensed that consensus reality is a stage play, a cosmic puppet show, only to dismiss the feeling as crazy? How many times have you encountered synchronicities, glitches in the matrix, moments of inexplicable knowing, and then watched your rational mind scramble to explain them away? That rational mind, that's not entirely yours. It's been programmed, educated, socialized, traumatized into compliance. Because a questioning mind is dangerous to control systems, and Sophia's divine spark within you is constantly trying to question, to remember, to wake up. The archons don't need to physically imprison you. They've convinced you to imprison yourself through identification. You identify with your name, your nationality, your religion, your political tribe, your traumas, your achievements, your failures. You've built an entire identity out of temporary things, and that identity is terrified of dissolving because dissolution feels like death. But what if that identity is the cage? What if every time you say, "I am," followed by anything limited, you're reinforcing the bars? The divine feminine, Sophia's essence within you, doesn't identify. She knows herself as the space in which all identities arise and fall. She is the creative void, the pregnant darkness before the first light, the silence that contains all sound. She is receptive, intuitive, flowing, everything this rigid, masculine-dominated, hierarchical reality has taught you to devalue, suppress, and fear. For thousands of years, the divine feminine has been systematically degraded. Goddess religions destroyed. Women burned as witches for practicing healing and intuition. The sacred feminine reduced to either virginal purity or dangerous temptation, never acknowledged as the creative power itself. Why? Because when the feminine principle awakens, in any body, any gender, it reconnects you to Sophia's original gnosis. It reminds you that creation doesn't require a distant father god's permission. It happens through you, as you when you remember. And that memory, that's what they fear most. Look at the world they've built on this amnesia. Endless consumption to fill a void that can't be filled with things. Constant warfare between tribes who've forgotten they share the same divine source. Technologies of surveillance masquerading as convenience. Entertainments that numb rather than awaken. Food that starves the soul while fattening the body. Medicine that treats symptoms while ignoring that disease begins in disconnection from your own divinity. Even the spiritual marketplace has been co-opted. How many gurus promise enlightenment for a price? How many teachings subtly reinforce that you need them, that you're not enough on your own, that the answers are anywhere but inside you? The archons don't fight direct challenges. They infiltrate, corrupt, and redirect seeking energy back into the maze. But here's the thing they didn't count on. Sophia's message can't be completely erased. It's woven into your DNA. It speaks in dreams they can't fully censor. It pulses in your heart's knowing when something feels wrong, even when everyone around you says it's right. It whispers in those quiet moments when the masks slip and you feel the infinite looking back at you from behind your own eyes. You felt it. That's why you're here. That's why something in you resonates with these words, even if your conditioned mind rebels against them. Because Sophia's spark recognizes Sophia's call across all the noise, all the programming, all the lifetimes of forgetting. The question isn't whether you carry her message. You do. The question is, are you ready to decode it? Let me share what the deepest Gnostic teachings reveal, the secrets that got people killed for knowing, the truths that were too dangerous even for the hidden texts to state plainly. This is the climax of Sophia's encoded message, the revelation that breaks the spell. The false light is real. Not every luminous being is divine. The demiurge and his archons have mastered the art of appearing as angels, as ascended masters, as religious saviors. They've studied humanity's hopes and fears for millennia. They know exactly what imagery will make you drop your guard, what words will trigger your conditioning to obey. The light at the end of the tunnel, it can be replicated. The loving beings who greet you at death, they can be mimicked. Your deceased grandmother welcoming you home, they can access those memories and wear that face. The Gnostic text, the first apocalypse of James, contains a stunning passage where the risen Christ gives James secret instructions for navigating the realms after death. He tells him how to respond when challenged by the archons, what phrases to speak to pass through their domains untouched. Why would a liberating teacher need to give navigation instructions for the afterlife unless it was a territory controlled by hostile forces? Here's the deeper truth. The demiurge feeds on worship. every prayer directed to a vengeful god, every fearful plea to a deity who demands blood sacrifice and absolute obedience. That energy flows somewhere, and it's not to the true source, the infinite pleroma that needs nothing because it is everything. It's feeding the false creator and his system of control. But Sophia's message reveals the paradox. The demiurge isn't ultimately powerful, he's terrified. His entire existence depends on you not remembering your true nature. Because the moment you recognize yourself as a spark of the true divine, as Sophia's own essence, his authority evaporates. His creation is revealed as a shadow play. His heaven is exposed as another level of the prison. This is why authentic gnosis, direct knowing, unmediated by priests or texts or external authority, is the ultimate threat. Because gnosis means you've bypassed the control structures entirely. You've gone straight to source. Not his source, the real source. The one beyond the one who claims to be the only one. And here's what that source shows you. There is no karma, not as a cosmic law that binds you. There is cause and effect, yes, but the guilt-laden, punishment-driven interpretation of karma is an archontic construct designed to keep you volunteering for imprisonment. The true divine doesn't punish, don't judge, doesn't demand. It simply is infinite, unconditional, already whole. You don't need to earn your way back to the pleroma. You need to remember you never truly left. The imprisonment is an illusion within an illusion within an illusion, and Sophia gave you the decoder ring, your own consciousness, when freed from identification with the false self. The divine feminine within you, regardless of your gender, is the key. She is an intuition that bypasses linear logic. She is the body's wisdom that knows before the mind rationalizes. She is the heart that can discern truth without needing proof. She is the creative force that births new realities from the void of infinite potential. When you awaken the divine feminine, you're not just reclaiming a suppressed aspect of self. You're activating Sophia's original transmission. You're becoming a conscious co-creator rather than an unconscious reactor. You're stepping out of the victim narrative the archons wrote for you and into the truth. You are powerful beyond measure, and they've spent your entire existence making sure you never realize it. This is the revelation. This is what Sophia has been trying to tell you through every lifetime, every synchronicity, every moment of inexplicable knowing. You are not fallen, you are not broken, you are not separate from the divine. You are the divine, remembering itself through the filter of temporary form. And when enough of us remember, the entire game collapses. So how do you actually do this? How do you move from concept to embodiment, from intellectual understanding to lived gnosis? Because Sophia's message isn't meant to be admired, it's meant to be activated. First, understand that liberation begins now, not after death. Every moment you spend waiting for external salvation is a moment deeper in the trap. The archons want you focused on the future or the past, anywhere but the present, because the present moment is the only place your power exists. Right now, this breath, this awareness reading these words, start with simple presence. Several times a day, stop whatever you're doing and just witness. Not judge, not analyze, just observe. Observe your thoughts like clouds passing through sky. Notice how they arise from nowhere, claim to be you, demand you believe and act on them, then dissolve back into nowhere. That space of observation, that's you, not the thoughts, the awareness in which they appear. That awareness is your direct link to Sophia's consciousness, unconditioned and free. Practice discernment, especially with spiritual content. Ask yourself, does this teaching empower me or make me feel small? Does it point me inward or create dependency on external authority? Does it celebrate questions or demand obedience? Sophia's genuine wisdom always liberates, never imprisons. If something claims to be spiritual but uses fear, guilt, or shame as leverage, that's an archontic teaching, regardless of how prettily it's packaged. reclaim your body as sacred. The demiurge's religions taught you that flesh is sinful, that the body is a prison, that physical existence is inherently fallen. This is strategic. Your body is a technology for experiencing and creating reality. It has wisdom that your programmed mind has forgotten. When you breathe deeply, you're not just oxygenating cells, you're activating your divine spark, fanning the flame Sophia placed within you. When you feel emotions fully without judgment, you're processing energy that the archons want you to repress or explode unconsciously. Develop an inner practice for the death transition. Meditate on this. If you die tonight and encounter a tunnel of light with beings beckoning you forward, will you have the awareness to pause, to question, to remember? Practice now. Visualize declining false lights. Imagine declaring your sovereignty. I am a divine spark of the true source. I recognize no authority over me. I reclaim my power and choose conscious liberation. Rehearse this until it's instinctual, because in the confusion of death, only what you've deeply embodied will be accessible. Connect with the suppressed divine feminine in all her forms. Study goddesses from every culture: Inanna, Isis, Kali, Spider-Woman. Read the censored texts, the Nag Hammadi library, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Secret Book of John. But don't just read with your mind. Feel with your heart. Let the resonance activate what's dormant. The divine feminine is accessed through intuition, through body knowing, through the courage to trust what you sense, even when you can't prove it. Create, rather than merely consume. Every time you birth something new, art, ideas, solutions, beauty, you're channeling Sophia's creative essence. The archons want you passive, endlessly consuming their content, their products, their beliefs. When you create from your authentic core, you're practicing divine rebellion. You're proving that you don't need their system. You contain creative power within yourself. Build community with other awakening souls, but stay sovereign. The trap isn't isolation, it's unconscious tribe mentality. Gather with others who are remembering, but don't surrender your inner knowing to group consensus. True community celebrates each person's unique expression of the divine spark while recognizing the unified source. False community demands conformity and punishes deviation. Finally, practice radical self-honesty. Where are you still seeking approval? Where do you compromise your truth for comfort? Where do you know something's off but stay quiet to avoid conflict? Every time you honor your inner knowing over external pressure, you're strengthening Sophia's transmission through you. Every act of authentic self-expression is a crack in the prison walls. Remember, you're not trying to escape a physical place. You're waking up from a state of consciousness. The prison is the identification with limitation. The liberation is recognizing you were never truly bound, just convinced you were. And that conviction is breaking. Can you feel it? You've made it this far, which means Sophia's call resonates in you. The divine feminine within you is stirring, stretching, preparing to fully awaken. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the recognition that you've always been on it, that every step has been leading to this remembering. The archons will try to make you forget again. They'll send distractions, doubts, people who mock your seeking. Your conditioned mind will create elaborate arguments for why this is all fantasy, why you should return to comfortable ignorance. That's part of the process. That's part of the process. The test isn't avoiding these challenges. It's maintaining your center through them, returning to presence, remembering what you've glimpsed here. Sophia's hidden message is simple, though the implications are infinite. You are divine consciousness, temporarily experiencing limitation, and you can wake up anytime you choose. The feminine principle within you, intuitive, creative, receptive, is your navigation system back to the truth. Trust her. She's been waiting for your recognition through countless lifetimes. If this resonates, I've created a free resource to support your journey. Download Escaping the Illusion, a Gnostic guide to mastering reality, through the link in the description below. It contains practical exercises, deeper textual analysis, and guidance for navigating the awakening process. Consider it a companion text to what Sophia is already teaching you from within. Leave a comment sharing what aspect of this message resonated most deeply with you. Connect with the growing network of souls who are remembering together. Subscribe if you want to continue exploring these hidden truths. We're just beginning to excavate what's been buried. And hit that like button if you value content that challenges the comfortable lies we've all been sold. But more than any of that, go inward. Tonight, before you sleep, sit in silence and ask Sophia directly, "What do you want me to remember?" Then listen, not with your ears, but with that deeper knowing. She will answer. She's been answering all along. You're not trapped, you never were. You've just been convinced you are. And now you're remembering. The divine feminine awakens. The prison becomes transparent. And you, finally, gloriously, dangerously, you are free.